Tara, take it
Okay.
away.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Hi, again, Tara Morley. I'm with the Fulton Schools of Engineering, and as a portfolio manager here, I spend part of my time working directly with faculty writing their proposals in a proposal manager capacity, and the remainder of my time then wearing a project manager hat and overseeing the execution of some of those sponsored projects. So our session today is called Creating a Responsive Proposal. And we're going to talk about the importance of setting up and tailoring your entire proposal writing process in accordance with the opportunity announcement. So before kind of jumping into the core of our discussion today, I did just want to share a few resources with you. As LJ mentioned, this is one of several workshops that are offered throughout this fall. We're kind of here at the bottom of column 1. There are 3 more sessions coming up this season, 1 each in October, November, and December. 2 more proposal writing workshops that will get into writing techniques, using your language, tips and tricks as far as other applications and software that are available to help you fine-tune your writing skills, as well as how to use graphics to enhance the visual appeal of your proposal. So each of those are great. Take a look and see if any of them work with your schedule. Funding.asu that LJ also mentioned, another great resource for any announcements coming out across the university related to research opportunities, connecting to the limited submission process if an opportunity you're interested in has certain restrictions, finding funding, proposal development, and event information. As LJ stated, the recording content from today in a few days will be posted here. And for any of the registered recipients, you'll receive copies of the materials we talk about via email as well. Research Academy, probably signed up using Research Academy, great place to also scan for upcoming events and learn about different trainings that are out there, sign up for what's of interest to you. And then lastly, researchadmin.asu.edu. If you have applied for a sponsored project before, you probably have worked with your research administrator here. If not, your research administrator will help you with preparing a lot of the compliance documentation, the budget, and facilitating the submission through the university. If you have any questions about how a proposal submission cycle works, this is another great resource. You can pop in here and also learn who is available to assist you. So with that, I want to jump into our objective today. So my goal with our time together today is to share with you a proposal construction technique that will help you read a solicitation and understand what the sponsor wants. Help you to prepare a proposal that is compliant and responsive to your sponsor. This is a sort of a sponsor agnostic technique. You can apply this concept and this tool to any sponsored project that you'll be going for, be it federal, foundation, private industry. Basically, we're going to look at what are they asking and how can I best prepare myself to give them what they want. And lastly here, help your reviewers quickly navigate and assess your proposal. If you turn in a proposal that easily aligns to what you've been asked to provide, it's going to make it really easy for your reviewers to take a look and determine if your project merits funding. Okay, so getting into the proposal construction process, what does that mean? So here we're going to review the solicitation. We'll jump into one of those in a moment and talk about how you're going to plan and outline your content. This is sort of, your building plans for your house. This is not writing, not at this point. So we are just looking to understand what's being asked of us, how do we get ready to respond, what requirements do I need to hit, and starting to think about what does it mean to be compliant with what the sponsor is asking for, as well as responsive to what they're asking for. And this will be a repeatable process, again, that you can apply at any time to any sponsor. And I'm going to share with you now just a few reasons why this technique can help you. So I've popped some numbers up here. These were taken from an NSF report that is now a couple years old, but I think the story it tells is probably one that's still consistent with recent numbers. So here, of researchers that applied across a 2-year period, 39% of them received an award. So those are researchers who submitted 1 or more proposals across 2 years. 39% received an award. Of those 39%, 68% of those proposals were reviewed by peer reviewers. And then the average number of proposals it took any PI in that period to get an award was the submission of 2.4 proposals. So I'm sharing these numbers with you just for a few reasons. One, you're going to be writing a lot of proposals. Two, you are writing to many eyes. And three, just know that not every proposal is going to get funded, but with the repeatable process, you'll be easily able to set yourself up, pivot, regroup, and think about how you can apply your content for a subsequent opportunity. Okay, so we're going to get into how to review a solicitation. Solicitations are put out and they give us an understanding of what the sponsor is looking for and the look and feel, as I say. How do they want to see what your response? So solicitations, just so you know, they often take 1 to 2 years for a sponsor to pull together and format and submit and compile all those requirements. They are speaking to the sponsor's mission, to their priorities, to certain goals that they've been asked to accomplish at the sponsor level. So often the requirements or certain components of a program that are put in there are put in for specific reasons. And the sponsor wants to see that you've read and are complying with those and understand those reasons when you're preparing a response. The look and feel as you read through a solicitation, often many of these sponsors are very specific with how they want a response to come in. They'll give you page requirements, they'll give you font requirements, margin requirements, header and subheader requirements. So we're going to just talk through organizing and preparing yourself so that way the backbone of your document is really ready before you even think about presenting your project idea. Here, another great piece of information I want to share was covered in an earlier workshop, but Knowledge Enterprise's Competitive Intelligence Team is another resource available to faculty. Could always reach out and inquire if they have any materials available on your sponsor on the specific program, because that team does a great job of looking at past awardees, past history and trends of the program, and can be, again, just more inputs for you to understand what your sponsor may be looking for, what your program's objectives are, and how you can best position the project you want to propose to meet those. So where do you begin, right? I'm going to harp on this today. You're going to read the solicitation, you're going to read all of the solicitation, and you're going to read it again, as well as familiarize yourself with the sponsor's proposal guidelines. So often sponsors will have the program solicitation itself, the specific set of money that they're looking to fund for a various number of projects, and then they have sort of sponsor-wide proposal guidelines. Now, I'm going to just pull up two that we'll talk about here, NSF and NIH. Those are some that I'm most familiar with working with engineering faculty, but it's something to just be aware of. A lot of the federal agencies do have a version of this. Industry sponsors may not, they may just encapsulate all of that in the request for proposals itself. So here on your screen on the left, I have just a screenshot of, in this case, the Gen 4 Engineering Research Center solicitation. That's a fairly large size proposal, but that box up top, you'll see I just zoomed in on some highlighted text that they're asking you to respond to the solicitation, and that you also need to be in accordance with the revised NSF proposal and award policy and procedures guide. So that is a separate document. You can Google and print these out. They're often quite massive, but again, your research administrator, or if you connect with a proposal manager, they'll be able to help you navigate these requirements to make sure that you don't miss anything. Here's another one for NIH, right? Required application instructions. You must respond to the solicitation itself, as well as be in compliance with the application guide for grants and contracts. Again, another lengthy document, but they do outline some of their implicit requirements that need to be met for any solicitation. So now you have the solicitation, you have an understanding of your sponsor's proposal guidelines. You know, now what? You've got a massive amount of paper or 2 large files. So what are they asking of you to do here, right? In essence, any research proposal is going to be asking you a handful of core questions. You know, what are you going to do? How much will it cost to do it? What will you spend the sponsor's money on? And why are you the one to do it? So these are some questions that should be running through your mind as you're preparing your response. It's not enough to simply state that you have a great project idea. You want to be able to state why your great project idea helps a sponsor meet their program or mission goals. And by putting that together, you can make yourself float to the top of that stack as a very appealing applicant for funding. Here on this slide, I brought up just, some of those other secondary and tertiary questions that are going to come into play with any proposal. You're going to be asked, what are you doing right now? That'll often come across to the sponsor in your current and pending document. What are you planning on doing and where? That could be your timeline or your Gantt chart. That could be your facilities document that lets the sponsor know what resources you have available to you to appropriately do this work. How will you manage your information? That could be a data management plan requirement. How will you protect your research subjects? Here, if you have any subjects that might be stating that you're going to be compliant with any IRB or IACUC requirements. How will you manage new ideas? Is there any intellectual property that's being developed as a component of your project? With your partners, do you have adequate plans in place or resources at hand to account for that? How will you coordinate with your partners? This can take different forms. This could be your collaboration plan. This is sometimes called a communication plan, management plan. And what will you owe the sponsor? This could be a set of required deliverables. These could be periodic reports. These could be performance thresholds that you're being asked to meet in doing your research project. So again, all kinds of questions to keep in your mind as you're preparing your content. Again, we're not writing just yet. So the next step I'm going to offer you is, once you've read your solicitation, we're going to shred that solicitation. I'll get into that in a minute. And then we're going to construct a shell document. And these two combined are going to really help that we are having a comprehensive understanding of what's required with the solicitation, and give consideration to the other, any supplementary or additional documents that you're being asked to provide. So what does it mean to shred the solicitation? So as you're going through your solicitation, I'm paper-based, so I print one copy out. Try not to kill too many trees. And you're going to go through and look for yourself keywords and requirements. You can use a highlighter, red pen. You could, if you prefer to do it electronically, create a table and copy things over into Excel. But basically, you want to have a thorough understanding of requirements. And I like to tell the PIs I work with, there are a lot of keywords that will come through across the page that are going to let you know where the sponsor's priorities are. Things that you must do. That an investigator should include ... May, required to, recommended, strongly encouraged, must not, will, demonstrate, expected to. Now, there's probably a whole host of other words that I haven't included here, but this is a representative sampling of the types of language sponsors use, and you should key in your attention to those when you see them on the page, and think about how the project you're proposing does or does not, heed that requirement. So just to, I guess, kind of test my own theory of how important this is, I did a scrub of a recent solicitation. This is an NSF solicitation, and I searched for each of these words. And NSF, as an example, they do repeat sections of the solicitation content across the package, but just for sense of scale, I'm going to share these numbers with you. In that solicitation document, there were 102 wills, 71 musts, 58 mays, 48 shoulds, 8 expected tos, 6 required tos, 4 strongly encouraged, 1 must not, and sometimes those must nots come with, you'll be declined to be reviewed if you do the opposite of what the sponsor's asking for. And then in this case, there were 0 recommendeds or 0 demonstratives, though I've seen them in others. So once you kind of have your highlighted document or your short list of requirements you want to be sure to address, we're going to construct a shell document. So here I'm going to pull up for you what I mean by shell document. Essentially, you're going to open up a Word document and you can save it as the proposal _shell document. And what we suggest you do is modify the styles feature in Word to meet the sponsor's requirements. Excuse me. I use black fonts for any of the required layout components. I will use red font to highlight any non-negotiables such as page lengths or other restrictions that are called out. Copy over in blue content what should be included under any section header. And then often I'll also add in green content in places throughout the shell document where the evaluation criteria is relates or is called out. So it's something you keep in mind, because sometimes the way the review criteria is framed, the verbiage can be slightly different than the language used in just the general project description request, and you just want to be sensitive to that. So here I'm pulling up for you. Your screen may need a second. Can we see those, LJ?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. So on the left here, I have, this is an ExcelNet solicitation that I just pulled up for reference. And on the right, I have my shell doc. And you can see up here that under styles, I've already prepped some of these styles here. So I have evaluation criteria. This one in black is going to show my headers. Here we go. We can see my styles. I set up the headers and evaluation criteria, tech volume body, and then solicitation information. So basically you go through and you kind of translate from one to the other what's being required. So I think I scrolled down through here in the project description, which I know is here, 15-page limit, describe the intellectual focus of the proposed work. This large paragraph here, you can see I've copied that right over to here. And then just in preparing for this discussion, I know that there is about review criteria that speaks to this. And what I would do is just copy here. I'll just grab the first sentence. I'm going to copy that, pull it over here. And because I know it's evaluation criteria, go to my styles and I'll turn it green. So it's an easy process, but by going through this, you will then sort of have your backbone all prepared to get writing, because everyone knows that starting with a blank page is just the worst. So by doing this preparatory work, you can kind of engage the proposal writing process already with an outline and a framed out idea of what needs to be on the page. Okay. So I also talked that you're going to want to be aware of the look and feel of what your sponsor is expecting. And so here on this slide, I just want to walk you through a couple of templates that, again, these are ones I'm familiar with, mostly working with engineering faculty. Some of you may work with these sponsors, but as you continue to build and refine your research portfolio, you'll see that there's often some thread of consistency with what a sponsor may ask for. So here for NSF, sort of the primary components of your proposal package will include a project summary. You get 4,600 characters, 3 required sections, the overview, intellectual merit, and broader impacts. And then often the project description is sort of a standard 15 pages. There'll be specific sections you need to address based on your solicitation. You'll have required components like intellectual merit or broader impacts to include. And in this case, results from previous work. They do offer defined guidance on the font size to use. They'll give you a minimum and the margins. Here I'll show you NIH's. Again, a little different. You're going to have to prepare a 30-line summary as a document, a 2 to 3 sentence narrative, a one-page specific aims page, a 12-page research strategy that specifically addresses significance, innovation, and approach. Again, font requirements, and here NIH, they offer you a half margin limit. So your page would look very different for an NIH proposal versus an NSF. If you go giving them a 15-page project summary style document, you're not going to be compliant for an NIH request. And then lastly, here on the right, I'm just pulling up for you Department of Energy. For me, they are one of our more complicated sponsors in terms of The technical volume, where you outline your idea, can range from 15 to 25 pages. You have to include a cover page with a certain set of criteria. Appendices, such as your resume or letters of any of your collaborators, would be separate. Of course, each of these sponsors have a budget requirement and a justification. Here, you must also include a statement of your project objectives, which is like a breakdown of the work you're going to be doing in task-based chunks, a summary for public release that's often in a defined format, a summary slide that they'll give you in a PowerPoint format, and a manufacturing plan in this case. So by putting them together here for you visually, I just wanted to show you that, you know, there is a range in what a sponsor may ask, and it's just good to be aware and sort of have an understanding of the breadth and depth of what you're asked to respond with before you get into doing any of the writing. Just one more slide here on look and feel. On the left is NSF, as you can see, that project description with the required sections. NIH, this is just a sample of that Ames page. And for Department of Energy, I just pulled up a sample of the cover page. Again, it's just a thing that sponsor requires, and you need to have it, or you could be deemed non-compliant. Okay, so here I did introducing another sponsor here at Department of State. Some of you may do work with them. I wanted to just show you, I gave you a quick view there with that live Word document, but I wanted to walk through for you what a fully fleshed out document template might look like for yourself. So here, this is that same solicitation ExcelNet, and you'll see this is sort of a fully prepped shell. There were page requirements, so I've called those out in red. All the headers are in black, so those must stay per sponsor requirement. The blue is indicating, you know, the text from the solicitation that you're asked to be responsive to with your project idea. And then here are the 3 relevant places where review criteria come into play. Here for NIH, again, very similar. The required pieces are called out in black, page lengths in red. You'll see I did add a comment on this one where I needed to remind my PI that there were certain other sections that this proposal wanted to see included. So the current state of the art, they had to address what industry partners they were working with, and a project milestone and timeline. So as an example, State Department, this is one I pulled up, and this page in particular, because sometimes you may be asked to report on your past performance as a required component of your response. So here I called that out. You had to, in this case, detail what countries you'd worked in, so I called that out with the yellow highlight. You know, my PI or any of, if this were to be prepared for multiple investigators, it becomes a very easy plug and play backbone for them to insert, you know, what country they worked with. And in this case, there was a scoring rubric that just broke down the required components. So you'll see, I just indicated past performance is worth 25 points. So, you know, a quarter of the evaluation is going to come on competent demonstration of having done this work previously. 25 points on the bottom of the screen there for the program strategy that the investigator was proposing. And lastly here, Department of Energy again, just pulling up, you know, that a page 1 of an energy proposal in this case is going to look differently than for another sponsor. And then the last thing I wanted to just cover with you all is that, you know, the PIs spend so much time preparing the technical volume, and that is a crucial component because that's the crux of your work and what you're proposing to do and where your innovation is going to lie. But I do want to encourage you to think of your proposal as a package. Sponsors ask for a certain set of documents or requirements for a reason. So as you're preparing your templates, and templates can be created for any of the other component pieces of a proposal package, you know, a communication plan template, you can create one for yourself, a management plan template, a data management plan template, and then just know that you're tweaking and refining that as you respond to different solicitations. So here I'm just bringing up 4 other other documents, for example, with your budget and your budget justification. Again, none of these documents live in a vacuum. So if you're proposing the use of software in your technical volume, you'll want to make sure that the cost of acquiring that software or licensing is counted for in your budget, right? That's going to show the sponsor that you really have a rounded understanding and have really thought through all the details of the work you want to do. Biosketches, right? Are you putting forth the right team to do the work? Do you have the right partners with you? Is the biosketch that's being submitted the most relevant and in tune for being responsive to this sponsor's request? Have you proposed the right facilities in your facilities package? Is it just a listing of rooms and spaces and equipment, or is it tailored to let your sponsor know what rooms, what equipment is specifically applicable to this work?
Tara, you have a question.
Oh, please.
What happens when my sponsor is NEA or DOJ or something that isn't presented here?
That is a great question. Specifically, those are sponsors I am not familiar with, but I would encourage you to read through the entire solicitation, do a search for your sponsor's proposal guide, grant guide. It can come under different names, and also reach out to your unit's research administrator. Chances are high someone in your unit has already helped a faculty member respond to that sponsor, be it in the same program or a differing one, and they will have a good understanding of what the required documents are. And if both of you find yourselves at a loss, you can always reach out to the program officer and request that guidance as well. Any other questions?
Thanks, Tara.
Okay, I think I just have kind of at the end here. But in closing, what I wanted to just reiterate is that your goal in writing your research proposal, you've chosen responding to a specific program for your reasons, and your sponsor has put out that program for their reasons. So, a program that's right for funding is going to hit that sweet spot between what the sponsor wants and your great idea. And if you can hit that yellow star nexus of where they meet, chances are high you'll be ripe for funding. So that is it as far as what I wanted to share with you today. I've just posted up some of those resources. These will be in the slides you receive. These are general ASU websites, but as you dig in, you can find more specific resources and event information. And I want to thank you all for your time today. I'm glad to stay on the line to field any questions if they come up.
Thank you so much, Tara.